Commissioner.
Okay, we'll call us into session. I don't see any adjustments on the schedule.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the agenda as presented.
Have a motion, all in favor say aye.
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 Okay. Chantel at Lula with Indigent Services. So the first case that I have for you today is case number 2018-0046. This case was placed in suspension in 2018 pending a final determination of a possible resource. It does now appear that Bannock County is the last resource for payment of this request. Recommendation is an approval of this application. Next case is case number 2018-0293. This case was placed in suspension pending a final determination of a possible resource in 2018. It does now appear that Bannock County is the last resource for payment of this request. Recommendation is an approval of this application at this time. The next case that I have for you is case number 2019-0080. This case was placed in suspension in 2019 pending a final determination of a possible resource. It does now appear that Bannock County is the last resource for payment of this request. Recommendation is an approval of this application. The next case is 2019-0130. This case was placed in suspension in 2019 pending a final determination of a possible resource. It does now appear that Bannock County is the last resource for payment of this request. The recommendation is an approval of this application at this time. And the last case that I have for you for an approval is case number 2019-0143. This case was placed in suspension in 2019 pending a final determination of a possible resource. Bannock County does now appear to be the last resource for payment of this request this time.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve case numbers 2018-0046, 0293, 2019-0080, 0130, and 0143.
We have a motion. All in favor say aye.
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 The next case that I have for you is case number 2015-0135. This case was placed in suspension in 2015. We're unable to obtain any information in regards to the possible resource. The hospital is not able to obtain any information. Either we're unable to determine if Bannock County is the last resource for payment of this request, so we're recommending a denial of this application pursuant to Idaho Code 31-3502-25 at this time. Case number 2015-0202. A recommendation is a denial of this application pursuant to Idaho Code 31-3502-25. We're unable to obtain any information in regards to this application as well. And then case number 2020-0242. Recommendation is a denial of this application pursuant to Idaho Code 31-3502-25. The application was approved for Crime Victims Compensation Program, so Bannock County is not the last resource for that application.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we deny case numbers 2015-0135, 2015-0202, and 2020-0242.
We have a motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Real quick, Chantel.
Yes.
These are some old cases. Given the changes in the indigent law, any thoughts on how stuff like this will be processed in the next year or two?
Yes, so I did attend the conference that they had this past week. I do believe it was on Wednesday with Seth Griggs. And we just talked about how we have until really October with our fiscal year to get our cases out. And so I'm trying to process them and working with the hospitals just to see where they're at with the cases. And so I'm getting all the information that I can. The CAT fund will have funds until July of 2023 to process all of those cases. And so we're working as quickly and as fast as we can to get them out and to get them paid or denied.
So how many more of these 2015 and stuff like that are out there?
So I have a list of all of the cases that I have. As of right now, I have 51 cases that are in suspension pending a final determination. So if I don't have any information, or if I can't contact the patient, or if the hospital is unable to contact the patient, then we're going to move forward with denying the cases because we're unable to determine if we're the last resource or not.
Cool. All right. Thank you. I'm just wondering about that.
So along that same line, some of these cases are like say 2017 and stuff, but we're paying them out of this year's budget.
Mm-hmm. And that's pretty typical with the cases that we do have in suspension, and so we have that excess in our budget in order to do that. So we still are responsible for those if we are the last resource.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, looks like we need a Board of Ambulance.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we convene as the Board of Ambulance.
We have a motion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Good morning, Commissioners. Ryan O'Hare, Bannock County Ambulance District. We're here today to ask for permission to order a 2022 Chevy Tahoe. I apologize for the short timeline on this. We were expecting an ordering window in early May, and we were notified last week that it was today on Tuesday, so Christy was good enough to get us on your agenda. This is money that is currently budgeted in the FY22 Ambulance District budget for capital expense. As we are not anticipating being able to take delivery of this vehicle until FY23, we would roll that money into the FY23 budget. And I did confirm the budgeted amount with Christy in the process about rolling that over, and she confirmed that. So the purchase price is under a government, it's under the state contract. It's $48,157, and we have $50,000 budgeted in the FY22 budget.
What do you use this vehicle for?
So this would probably be a staff vehicle, but it also could be repurposed as a response vehicle, or however it would best serve the district. Given, the potential growth of the district, if we decided that it needed to be used as a quick response unit or something rather than just as a chief's car, then we would repurpose it as maybe a paramedic quick response unit or something like that. So however it best would serve the district, but right now for the last few years it's been slated as being an administrative car.
Okay.
How many administrative vehicles are there that are owned by the county?
I really think only one or two. So right now the one that this has been slated to replace is a 2003 Chevy Avalanche. So it's obviously almost 20 years old. It's still operable, but we generally try to get on about a 20-year rotation for our auxiliary vehicles.
So this is a purchase, not a lease.
Correct.
So, on that, there was a couple questions I had. One is, if this is replacing a vehicle, are you trading one off, or what's?
We have not looked at getting a bid as what it would trade off. We had thought, there is the opportunity to use that vehicle for wildland deployments. Sometimes we send out single resource paramedics, and in fact, even though the current vehicle is a chief's car, it is on our wildland deployment list, and we have sent it out. It's currently used by our training chief, but we've sent it out on a couple of wildland deployments, and then the district gets revenue from that vehicle. Essentially, the incident leases the vehicle from us, and this vehicle as well that we're ordering could potentially go on that list as well.
So, and then my other question is, and it goes along with what Jeff just says, is I didn't like the way this was worded. It sounds like you're just purchasing a vehicle just because. The vehicle would serve as a staff vehicle or other quick response EMS, and the reason we're doing it is because we put $50,000 in the budget. That's what this line says to me. And do we need it? I mean, that's because of the way that was structured. Just
My
because we have it
apologies.
in the budget doesn't mean that we have to spend the budget.
We ask these questions of everybody. I mean, this is
Sure.
one of
No,
those
I
things that we look at
understand.
usage and,
Yeah.
I mean, that's really, we've been asking everybody that question, is this a want or is this a need?
Well, as I stated, I appreciate the question, and it's a fair one. We do try to stay with a 20-year rotation on our chief vehicles or our staff vehicles. The vehicle this would be replacing is a 2003, and so we feel that given the timeline and the delay in ordering, we wouldn't take delivery of this probably until FY23. We understand that with these narrow ordering windows, delivery times are ranging anywhere from 12 to 18 months. So this has been budgeted actually for the last few years, and we haven't executed it. We've just
Kicked it
continued to
off.
roll it I believe that it initially was budgeted in FY '20, but because we felt like we were making do with what we have. But the current vehicle is showing its age, and we do feel that it's time to replace it.
And that's the other part about the trading off or getting rid of the other vehicle. If we're just gonna keep throwing money into it, if it's getting of age where all we're gonna do is keep repairing it, then
Right.
I don't wanna keep it. I
Absolutely.
mean, I definitely don't wanna keep it, and I don't wanna give a vehicle to a person just because.
Understood.
In the county itself, we're talking about who drives vehicles home, who doesn't, and it's gonna be a big discussion, and so.
This brings a question of de minimis use that we've been discussing with this, because it raises an interesting point, because this is paid for out of the ambulance levy specifically. So the question of use then, how much of it is used in an administrative and like the training chief or one of those functions, is that de minimis use for things not related to the ambulance district? Because the question that comes up is, and we've had this with a lot with road and bridge, because that's a separate levy.
Right.
So crossing levies is bad. They don't look too kindly on it with us. And so the question would be is this a vehicle then that is going to be used for a chief that is solely for ambulance purposes? Or is this a vehicle then that is being used, 25% of the time doing X, 50% of the time doing ambulance stuff, 25% doing city of Pocatello stuff? Because then that raises the question if it's not de minimis anymore, and we're allowing a levy to be used for a function that's outside of the levy. And that would be my, we've just been running into this a lot, and we are trying to correct this and put this into, this is a county-wide, like I said, we have multiple levies, and that's the hard part in the county, is we can't buy something in Mosquito and say, hey, Scott, you guys got new vehicles in the wellness complex. That can't happen. And as much as Scott's back there wanting that to happen, and so that's just a question to raise here, because this becomes an asset then that could be used outside of its purview. It's like an ambulance. I mean, you're not going to drive an ambulance down to, use it to go, mow lawns or do weeds or anything, So, I mean.
This is used by our training chief. He does not drive it home, even though he lives in the city of Pocatello. This is just used by him during the day. I would imagine that it is used for both fire and EMS training to get him to, when he's traveling between stations. Granted, a large part of our training is EMS related, but I don't think that this is solely to get him to EMS training functions. So.
Okay. All right. And that's just kind of that whole thing to make sure that we're, I hate to use the cliche word of transparent, but that really is, we're buying something that's being used for the function that it was intended to.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And just one last quick question. You said this could be converted to like a quick response vehicle. Could you just talk about that for, I know we're going to meet in a couple weeks about this, but just real quick.
Well, I think, as we're seeing call volumes increase and we're looking at where the growth in the district might be, I could envision this instead of a staff vehicle becoming a paramedic unit, for example, in South County, potentially in North County, if we decided that that was the need to provide a quicker EMS response. So in that case, it would be 100% EMS district use.
So then what would be the ripple effect? Would you have to replace it with another staff vehicle, or?
We'd have to probably be creative and maybe find something that he would still use this 2003 for a while, or maybe we would surplus a vehicle out of the city. It would leave a hole, but it wouldn't be one. I would think at that point we would be looking at the greater benefit to the district being the response than just the administrative component.
Well, and you bring up something that's a good point when you said surplus out, because there's a lot of vehicles that we have that float through the county, that now that we've started to get into a better vehicle rotation cycle, I mean, we're starting to do, and if it's a smaller vehicle and if it's an administrative vehicle, we have administrative vehicles that are out there. And so that might be a question too in the future is instead of buying, if we're going to use a Tahoe for a sprint vehicle, sprint ambulance, basically what we're going to, first responder ambulance.
This also makes me wonder, would this be a vehicle that we should consider leasing instead of purchasing outright? Especially if we do end up using it as a quick response vehicle and creating a hole, then it would be easier to get another one to fill it with some of the budget money as opposed to.
Well, and then you just always have a vehicle that's rotating over and you're not worried about changing the engine and transmission, because I'm sure that 2003, you guys probably put a lot of love into that.
It's seen some.
And so that's
definite use.
kind of what we've been finding is we started leasing vehicles like this. Is
The
it'll-
sheriff's department specifically.
Yeah, is, hey, here's a brand new one, you can do whatever you want. You want to drill holes in it, you want to drill hole, you want to have them drill the holes and put everything in it, they don't care. And what we found is it's usually, we get mechanics that really love to show how good they are, and while I appreciate their mechanical skills, it's okay to not put the third and fourth engine into the vehicle.
Right.
It's okay to let it go, guys, it'll find a good home, but, and that's something that we found is in this. I am afraid though, if we tried to do a lease right now with their ordering window closing, that I don't know if you'd be able to get another vehicle in time. Because
Well, my question is, you just have to approve the purchase and then you secure financing or you pay for it when it gets delivered, correct? So we would have some time to either make that decision. I guess, I don't know, I'm speculating.
I think if you could approve it and then start looking and see if Enterprise or one of the companies that we have could track one down. I mean, because that's really the other thing too, is Enterprise is actually able to track one down faster, where if we could actually track it down where we don't have to roll money. That's the other thing that I don't like is all the continuous, and that's been the problem with all the supply chain issues right now is this total, hey, we just have to because then you have to try and keep track of what you're doing. And we actually were able to lease a vehicle for the coroner's office, and we were actually able to find one fairly quickly.
Shanda.
You just walked into the the chief's like, guys, I just wanted to buy a vehicle, man. Return it. This is supposed to be an easy up and easy. Sorry, this is what we do.
We're talking about purchasing a vehicle for the ambulance district, and they have a purchasing window of today on this Chevy Tahoe, and we were discussing the opportunity to lease it instead of purchase it outright. If we made that choice to lease it, what's the process? Can he still go forward with his purchase today and then we convert it to a lease before we actually take possession of the vehicle, or?
Who are we purchasing it from?
This is under the state contract.
It's probably the state bid out of
We had
the-
a bid that was already in hand through our fleet department, and so they were able, on this short window at the end of the week,
So we're buying this from a dealership?
Mhm.
Okay.
I believe it's actually on here.
So that is potentially a possibility to get with the dealership. Enterprise would contact the dealership and see if they could purchase the unit, right? If they purchase it and then we lease it through Enterprise.
See if we can find a unit, because it's a state contract, so I'm assuming it's fleet services through General Motors. And so I've seen it when we've bought these in the past, we've actually changed it out because they can't get it, it's 2023 delivery date, and hey, we can find a lease that's still through General Motors fleet. I mean, it's their same servicing group, and so it's not like they lose the sale, they're just rotating it in somewhere else, and
Right, so they wouldn't even have to find another one. They could indeed purchase this actual one that.
it's not due till 2023, so I mean, if we could find one, that's the thing,
Oh,
it's
so
like,
it's not built.
We're understanding this was quoted as a 2022 Chevy Tahoe, but they forecasted a 2023 price increase, and then with the government pricing. So we're assuming realistically that we're not going to take delivery of it this year, but
it's probably
That's
sitting
what
in a
we- that's what
parking
we found
lot.
with the sheriff's vehicles,
Yeah.
it's taken a long time to get them.
Yeah. They are, like everybody after the pandemic, they're ramping up production. They're doing more than they did last year, but still they're anticipating about a 30-day inventory to dealerships, which is nowhere near like the 84 that used to happen before. So if this isn't, so this one isn't currently sitting on their lot waiting.
I don't believe so.
It's in process and coming.
I believe we're trying to pre-order and get in the queue.
Okay.
And the way we understood it, there's a window today that you can get your purchasing in, and then you basically go on a waiting list. So this is my understanding, this is an allocation, that if we order this, we will get a place in the line for this vehicle.
I'd go ahead and, knowing just how long it's been taking us, I don't have a problem with go ahead and approve and get in the spot line, and then seeing on the backside if we could go through
Right.
the lease process, because what's been cool is sometimes Enterprise has been able to find a vehicle that, hey, they have it available, and Commissioner Moser and myself have made it a habit of going and picking up vehicles, because every time we're in Boise, somebody seems to call us and say, hey, while you're there, can you go pick up this truck, or and that's what I say is if you could do that, because then you guys could actually get that vehicle into service a lot sooner than that, and then all your maintenance and all that stuff that way is just Vehicle blows up, trade in, get a new one.
My one concern that I would like Chief O'Hearn to double check, often when we get in line, we are committed to that vehicle. If we get in line today, if they're going to assign that vehicle to the ambulance department, we are on the hook, and either Enterprise buys that vehicle or we do.
Their 2023 pricing, that's actually, I think that's almost identical to the price that we purchased those Sheriff's Tahoes.
That'd be fantastic if it's the same price.
I'm pretty sure it's
I'm hearing like a 13% increase.
yeah, and it's what they've quoted. So I would say then if we don't know for sure we're in the window and no one just supply chain, I'm okay with them putting it in, and if we can
If
go.
you could just look at it and see
Yeah.
if we can do the lease, that would be great, but with Commissioner Tubby, let's move on it.
But it'll be a further discussion we'll end up having about leasing vehicles and seeing. Because, like I say, if they're 20 years old and we're putting money into them, we have the opportunity to trade them off every 5 years.
Sometimes pay's great and all, but if you have a vehicle that you don't have to worry about, is this going to start this morning? Just saying. So, Mr. Chair.
Oh, go ahead, Darrell.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the Bannock County purchase of 2020 Chevy Tahoe as presented.
2022.
2022, excuse me.
Okay. In agreement?
We good?
I am. I'm probably going to ask for a clarification.
Point of clarity, okay, here we go. Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the purchase of a 22 Chevy Tahoe as presented by Chief O'Hearn for the Bannock County Ambulance District.
Okay.
So whatever you presented here is what we're buying. So
We have a motion.
Something else in here.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Okay. I just wanted to confirm, you want me to follow up and see whether we are on the hook or whether we could convert this to a lease option later.
Yeah.
But if that's not an option, we're okay to order the vehicle and
Shannon
get
can
it.
probably help you with
Yes.
that.
And I'll coordinate with Shannon.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if we can lease it, I think that's the way to go. And if not, then at least we're in line and ready to go.
Okay.
If we're at a 13% decrease from the next year's quote, that's a pretty good price.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's what I said.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
All right, come on to the board.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we exit the Board of Ambulance and reconvene as Board of County Commissioners.
Got a motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, Ryan?
Hi. Just double checking to make sure you had the most current version. So you do. Yeah, Ryan Bellap, HR Director. I brought before you another procedure. It looks like this is number 6. I got 7 coming next week. But this is regarding salary placement and movement. Currently, our policy, Bannock County policy, kind of lightly references promotion, lightly references placement, but this puts some greater definition to it. In practice, there was a kind of a salary plan created in 2008 with some of these concepts in it, but it was also that plan included several things that we don't do. And so I just wanted to clean it up and explain and put some definitions and some terms and what it means. This wording should look very familiar to you if you read, my FY23 salary plan and the changes I'm making to policy itself. A lot of it mirrors, this procedure mirrors some of the policy that I had proposed earlier. I'm not making any big changes to practice that we currently do with this. But did you have any questions for me?
No, I read through it, and I liked the direction we're going. Later on salary rate approval forms, I do have a question that kind of,
Apply.
one of them, it kind of is in the middle of these, what you're saying here.
Yes.
And we may go into an executive session at that time. It's on the agenda to do that, and we could have that conversation then, but this format and stuff I liked.
Does this preclude us from doing a mid-year step promotion? So if I'm at the beginning of the year, Like I'm budgeting some guys to go through post. And right now, they're at level here, but we expect a salary bump when they go through post. And that might be 6 months down the road. So that allows us, or I'm anticipating that, and I've budgeted for it. Does this preclude us from doing something like that?
The opposite. This
It has to be.
actually explains how to do that.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
what I just wanted to make sure. That,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
That's what I thought I read, but I'm just making.
yeah. And that's part of it, as the policy changes I'd proposed earlier will go into effect October 1, is what I was hoping. But we just keep having situations where this clarification is needed, so I wanted to get that done now.
Great. Thank you, Ryan.
Yeah.
I'm good with it. I didn't see anything that caught my eye.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the updated policy, salary placement and movement procedure.
We have a motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're gonna keep Brian away from the procedure manual. He keeps making it. It's like,
Makes sense. All right, Adam?
Morning.
Brought reinforcements this
I
week.
did. Adam McKinney, Chief Technical Officer. I have Dorian Hitchcock, technician, with me as well, just in case you guys have any questions for him. This morning, we're bringing before you guys a update to our phone service. We've already started the RFP for the phone switch hardware side of this. This is the service side, and I know we talked about not being willing to look at this until the other side was done. However, with the stuff that we did with the 911 stuff, Lumen, it came to light that some of the stuff we're paying for, we're overpaying for. And Lumen was very willing to work with us, went back and provided this rate chart. It's like the third sheet in the packet in the order that we've got. Basically, the service that we're currently getting with Lumen is an antiquated service. It's a PRI service that they don't offer anymore. This would replace that service with their newest compatibility site. It's called SIP. It's voice over IP. And this also will not only save us considerable amount of money per month, it almost drops our monthly charges in half. It will also bring in a redundant fiber connection to the courthouse with a 100 megabit internet connection, which we currently only have a single fiber connection to the internet. So this is actually going to increase what we've got as redundancy goes. So
we
we'll
only have one.
Yes, we have a single fiber connection currently, yeah. We have a fiber ring connection.
Yes.
That connects us to the sheriff's department, and they have a connection, but it's not a redundant system. If something were to go down here, the auxiliary stations besides the sheriff's office would lose the internet. We could manually reroute that through the sheriff's department, but it would take some work. This will bring in an additional 100 meg line to have a redundancy here in the building. In addition to, that line will be primarily dedicated just to voice traffic.
Are we running just a single 100 then?
Well, we've got a
right now?
gigabit. Currently, we have a gigabit.
Okay.
This would be a 100, and the option to get faster than 100 would be
It's
in
there
there.
if you need it.
Yeah, we simply would go with 100 at the beginning. The upside on this package is, as this is a upgrade to the existing system we have, voice complete, after we signed those contracts to bring our PRI pricing down, Lumen looks at this as simply a transition to the next generation of their services. They've offered to provide us the hardware that we need on site, managed by them, completely no charge to it. They've offered to provide the work to get the fiber into the building completely at no charge. Basically, the only thing we're going to do is have to unplug the old system, plug in the new system, and the conversion is pretty much done. The upside to doing this at this point is that we're still under the contract with the current phone provider for the hardware side until October. So if we do it now, we can have it done before that RFP even goes into place. And then even if we did get a new provider to provide us the hardware side stuff of it, the back end, the service side is already done. This is also only for the courthouse. This savings that you see there of $16,000 per year estimated, that's only the courthouse. When you add the sheriff's department, that number almost triples. But we're trying to do one to see how it works. The sheriff had a little bit of distaste on the idea of switching his service out without saying that it worked first. So we'd like to do the courthouse. If all goes well, we'll do the sheriff's office. There could be some additional considerable savings there. So
I can't tell you how excited I am to start going through these phone contracts and making some changes.
Absolutely. You know, as we found, we originally thought, let's just do this in a row, but then they started telling us, you know, if we're doing this, let's look at this stuff. And so we said, you know what, let's just see what it looks like. And when we found out, you know, through this investigation that we're just overpaying for what we currently have, and what we need. And the city's already transitioned to this type of service. They've been on our, you know, on the docket to ask us to transition to this for a while. We just simply weren't sure we were ready for it. But after going through it with Lumen, it's pretty straightforward. They're going to manage that voice complete package, the work order that's in there that needs a signature. We get this started, and basically it's managed up to the end point where all we've got to do is change the wire that's plugged into our phone switch, and we'll pretty much be ready to go.
Can I do this one?
Sure.
Mr. Chair, I've been working on this for like a year, so I'm so excited to be here. Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the new contract with Lumen for services as presented.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Good
guys.
job, guys.
Well done.
Shanda.
Morning, Commissioners. Shanda Crystal, Purchasing and Economic Analyst. I have 3 items for the board today. The first is a recommendation to award a bid for the Detention Center HVAC. We opened that bid last week. We did receive 1 bid for that. The Sheriff's Office reviewed it, and they are confident that they'll be able to complete that work. I would like to recommend that we award the bid to the Detention Center HVAC to Mechanical Solutions Corporation.
Questions? Motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we award the bid as presented to Mechanical Solutions.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously.
Wonderful. The second item I have for the commission is we went out for an informal bid to apply the paint to the road striping this year. It was informal. We did receive 2 responses back. Both of them were reviewed, and Road and Bridge is confident that the low bid would be able to do the work that we have asked them to do. We would recommend that we award that bid to Idaho Traffic Safety for $4.30 of cost per gallon to apply the paint.
Seems pretty reasonable. Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we accept the recommendation and award the paint bid to
Idaho Traffic Safety.
what'd you say? Idaho Traffic Safety.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
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 Is there 2 on here?
The last item I have before the board is a recommendation for the Historical Museum roof. Again, we did open those bids last week with the commissioners. We did receive 1 bid. It did not comply with all of our requests that we had. It did not include a bid bond with their submission. It wasn't submitted to the clerk's office. And then on top of that, they contacted me the next day and said due to scheduling conflicts, they would need to pull their bid. So that was a failed solicitation. But we contacted Dan because now we are free to go out on open market and start contacting people to try to get this work done. And since we have a very interesting contractors environment, I'd like him to describe the solution that we're hoping to move forward with.
Good morning. I guess with your permission, I think we need to invest some time into finding a contractor as soon as possible to make sure we can get a roof on this summer. But I've reached out just to a couple of people with not a lot of luck. Everybody's busy. It's a difficult project. The type of roof that's on there, basically you have to cut it off in 2-foot sections and remove it that way. So it's a tough job, and it's going to take some effort to find someone that's got the time and is willing to do it. So I guess I'm looking for your permission today to spend some time on this and reach out to the contractors that have a public works license that's required and get this thing moving forward.
Yeah. We need to, we gotta get it done, or otherwise we're gonna have water issues and problems in that building this winter.
That is one thing different than the bid we did, right? For the bid, we did a roofing company that would have done everything. Now Dan would like to split that up, that we find a general contractor that's willing to come and demo the roof and re-deck, is that the right?
Yeah, so, the first challenge is cutting that metal roof off, and the next challenge is we're redecking the roof. It doesn't have a wood deck on that metal pan,
Yeah,
which is causing the condensation problems. The metal decking actually has vent holes in it, so any condensation that's made goes right through the vent holes and has gone into the building, and the sheetrock's coming down, so. It needs done as quick as we can. It's not an easy project, and it's not gonna be easy to find someone that wants to do it or has the time to do it, but I think the first challenge, like I say, is cutting it off. The second challenge is redecking it. I think re-shingling it's not a big deal. And then we're left with a lot of fascia and gutter work, because after we redeck it, it's actually gonna be 2 inches higher on that fascia than it is now. Because the decking actually has a layer of foam on it as well.
just have Seamless Company come in and fascia it and gutter.
Yeah, so it's really could be, 4 different contractors. And it might be easier route to find someone that, I think you're gonna have a hard time finding someone that wants to do every step of the way,
Yeah,
so.
okay, no, my recommendation is, just go. Let's try and get that roof figured out, because that's something that's in there, and if we lose the window and we get a bad snow year, we're gonna have problems again.
I agree.
Go forward.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wes?
I'm gonna sneeze again.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
What you have in front of you is the closeout paperwork.
Is Michelle here for this too? Or which one?
Just kind of standing in because Christie's out and
Oh,
if there's anything.
Well, there's a chair right here.
if you're
You're in the wrong
Christie today,
chair.
yeah, you're in the wrong chair.
I'll be my boss.
Okay. Well, thank you for being here. Oh, sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, what you have in front of you is the closeout paperwork for the 2018 Hazard Mitigation Grant from the Idaho Office of Emergency Management. So normally what they do is they'll send out the signature pages, which is pretty identical to that, and then when we get to the termination point to close out the grant, we have the follow-up documentation that needs to be signed.
Okay.
Michelle, you got anything on that?
Christie just wanted to double check and see if we knew what the total county cost would be. Because I know that we didn't meet the personnel soft match.
Right.
So she just needed a total for that and then to find out where we're gonna get that money from. And
So our total award was $67,399, but we're short a match amount, correct? So does that come off that 67 or we have to?
No, the total award amount was 89.
Okay.
So we have to,
And so the 67 is what the breakdown is now, and the 22 was the match. So depending upon what we paid to the contractor and what we paid for salaries and those things, and IOM will let us know what that match amount actually is, because they've got different formulas that they're using as well. I don't have those
So we
numbers.
don't have that
with me
just
today.
yeah. Last time the rough discussion was it was gonna be around 16. Somewhere in
I
there.
think that's what
Yeah.
was forecasted. but
And I
it
think
might
the
be lower.
discussion that we had was that, we had that out of operational funds, I think is where it was at. I'll have to go back and look at my notes that we had written down for it. But it's one of those things that, this is one of them, is as we get forward, we've learned some lessons of what we do and don't do, and, and hey, that's just how it works on this, and next year we'll, just how it's gonna work. Mr. Chairman, I move that we authorize the, what's the formal term for this?
Closeout form?
The closeout form for I was looking for the grant, the official name of the grant, for the 2018 grant adjustment notice for the Office of Idaho Emergency Management is presented.
Have a motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously.
Cool, thanks, Wes.
Thank you.
All right, Matt.
Good morning. What I'd like to visit with the commission about today is request for approval to terminate an agreement we have with Oregon Social Learning Center for a study that we're involved in called Project LEAP. I want to give you a little bit of background information about this study. Oregon and Idaho were approached by Oregon Social Learning Center about participating in what's called a parent activation study. This is used in the medical world where you look at kids who have chronic illnesses and things like that, that if their parents provide appropriate care, you can reduce emergency room visits and things like that. So Oregon Social Learning Center wanted to see, can those same principles be applied with probation so we can reduce likelihood that kids in the juvenile justice system would come back, reoffend, and those types of things. So we agreed to participate along with a number of other Idaho counties, as well as counties in Oregon. It's really a 3-year study. First year of the study, for us, we were not randomly selected to go through the training at the beginning of that year. We were just turning in what we'd call iPad checklists, where we would meet with people. They would do a checklist. Every so often, we were doing them twice a month. And basically, they were getting a baseline evaluation of our skills. And then we move on to the training and parent activation, which is they're calling Project LEAP, which we went through end of last year and beginning of this year. And so we've continued. We received 10 hours of training. One thing that I think is important to consider is when we agreed to this study, we knew that there'd be expectations about doing these checklists with families and checklists we'd have to complete every so often. What they couldn't tell us is what the curriculum would be that we would be using with families, because there was fear that would contaminate other groups who hadn't been trained yet. So as we went through the training with the curriculum, as we began to apply it, what we found is that in many ways it really hasn't been an effective fit with the parents and families we work with. There's a lot more curriculum to it in terms of what the expectations are and what we put on families and what we expect probation officers to do than we initially anticipated. Family engagement is a hallmark of what we do. It's critical to us. We train our staff on it. The way we're set up in our structure, when we meet with families, we do family engagement. And what we found is that in some cases, this parent activation curriculum that we're using with parents actually slows us down. They have certain steps that we take, and oftentimes we're what would be considered step 3 in our second meeting, and they would have us still at step 1. You know, we meet with families based on the level of risk that their kids present. And so for some of those families, we would have to meet with them more often just to get them through the steps to get us caught up, which is something that's an extra burden on them, but also is extra time on our staff. So what we found with some families, we're ahead of the game and this slows us down. Other families, they're not ready for this yet. There's still too many other stressors in their life. There's other factors that have to be addressed first. And so some of those families struggle with it, and then when they come into us, they don't have this work completed, so we spend more of our time trying to work through their barriers to get them to get this work accomplished. That takes away time from the interaction with the kids and the other things that we need to do. I think it puts a lot more stress and pressure on our probation officers. And I've met with the majority of our probation officers individually, and then we met with a group. We have 9 that are currently in the study, including me. And although there's some good principles in here and there's some good tools in here to apply it in each case, or even a majority of the cases that it would apply to, is just really setting us back in terms of slowing things down. And in some cases, like say parents, I think may even not come to appointments because they know they don't have this work done, which then just sets us back further. So I've talked to Oregon Social Learning Center, the people that trained us. I've told them that we were considering requesting this termination, so they're aware of it. If we were to remain in this agreement, we would have almost 2 more years of completing these iPad checklists, plus they want us to meet once a month as a group with them, plus we have individual meetings once a month, plus we have mock sessions that we have to do that demonstrate our skills, plus we have our iPad checklists, and we're just finding that it's taking up too much time for the value we're getting out of it. I don't want to stay in it for 2 more years just for the sake of the study. The study is important to me, but for the sake of our staff and the families that we work with, I feel like they have to come first. And so that's why we're recommending the termination. What we would need to do if we terminated is they do provide us with iPads. We'd need to send those iPads back. They do provide $250 for each person participating in the study, each PO. For any year you participated, you don't have to send that back. I think we've received one payment of $2,700. that went into the trust, I don't think we would need to send that back, but I'll check with Oregon Social Learning, I'll check with the auditing office, but that payment should have come in for the first year of our participation, which we've completed.
Okay. I'm okay with that, if that's what you want to do, and
I applaud you for being willing to change course and put your clients ahead of this, so thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve determination of the memorandum agreement with the Oregon Social Learning Center as presented.
Have a motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Right, so I was going to get with you, Brian, do you want me to write that letter, or do you want to write that?
You can write it the next review.
Okay,
Cool.
all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Jennifer?
Lori's on her way. So, I guess I'll start. Do you have any questions regarding our letter?
No.
Yes, but no.
I mean, yes,
Frustrations?
we have a piece of property that, so we have a mobile home that's on somebody's property. It's taxes are due, nobody owns it.
Nobody's paying on it. Nobody cares to purchase it. It's sitting out in the middle of a field. There's no access to it. The deputy said when she went out there, there's like no road. You had to walk through the field to get there, and we're going on 3 years now, and it's just wasted time on everyone's part, we feel like.
Yeah. Is it hooked up to services? Is it hooked up to power and water?
I don't know that. That's a good question. She said it appeared to be empty, like there's no one living there. So I don't know how it could be, honestly.
The problem is we're gonna waste more time and effort trying to collect taxes on something that's, to tell you the truth, nobody's gonna go drag it out of a farmer's field. That's why they drug it out in the farmer's field.
Right, right. And I mean, we could have the assessors put a salvage value on it, or a shed value or whatever, but nobody's gonna pay that either.
Well,
There she is.
and the problem is if the property that it sits on isn't the owner of the property.
Right.
Now, you could put a lien on the parcel of the real property in case it ever gets sold or the title ever pops up, which I doubt it ever will.
Right. That's what we were hoping for, but then when we started
Now, the
investigating-
question would be, the property in question, has it been red tagged by the planning and zoning office? Because if they've drug and moved a piece of property out there without having a development permit or having a permit in right, because the property is not, it's on the reservation, but it's deeded ground, it's not reservation ground, right?
Yes.
So they should have had a planning and zoning permit to actually do that. So that should also get red tagged, and it should be notified that, and then there is actually a misdemeanor that can be assessed for that. I mean, if we want to play the rock game.
I appreciate the time you've invested.
Yeah, you guys had a lot, I mean, really, the whole thing is if they just drug it out in the middle of nowhere, there's different offices that have dealt with that. I turned it over to planning and zoning, but you guys, I don't believe that you're going to be able to do anything. I'd probably put a lien on the actual mobile home in case it ever gets sold or anything ever happens. You could do that, but if the individual says that it's in process of being sold, okay, fine. If it ever sells, great. When they cut it up and turn it in for scrap metal,
Right.
somebody will have to pay the tag to get rid of it.
I don't think that anything's,
It's going to sit there and be a
Well,
barn for the next 50 years.
it wouldn't surprise me if the guy that actually owned the trailer and said he sold it to someone else ends up eventually using it. He told me multiple times he was going to come to the sales and that he was going to buy it.
Yeah.
But then he said, the last time I talked to him, when I told him that we were going to try and put it on as a special on his property, and he said, well, I'm going to talk to my attorney about that. And he said, because I don't want to pay for it. You know, I don't want to pay for it.
Like I said,
I don't think anything's going to
Yeah.
happen with him, but who knows? It sits out in the middle of a field. There's no access.
Yep.
And it's.
So again, like I said, I I'd recommend that we just cancel the taxes, but tag the actual the trailer with a lien of.
Is that,
We
do you know,
can,
is
we
that
can talk
possible?
to the DMV about how to.
You can actually.
Doing that.
Yeah, and then if it ever turns up, somebody'd have to pay for it. Great.
Okay.
Other than that, and like I said, that's one of those that, then you just turn it over to planning. Hey, planning and zoning, you have an illegal structure as it's out in the middle of nowhere that doesn't have development right, that just never should have done this, and they're in violation of about 6 county ordinances. Have a good time.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the tax cancellation as requested.
We have a motion?
Do you want the parcel number?
Yeah, I was gonna read, MHMH033016401.
We're, okay.
That was one.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the other parcel. That was
The
the,
property's down
that was the
below.
property parcel.
I'm
I
not-
did the same thing.
The numbers weren't matching. Okay, we have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Emma?
Morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Emma Iannacone, Public Information Officer. I'm here to bring back the idea of establishing an ordinance to regulate the usage of the county seal. We had an example that we used inspiration from the Latah County, who placed an ordinance similar to this. Would you like me to read aloud? No?
Okay.
Do you have questions for me?
I like it.
Yeah, I'm good with it.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the,
Do we have to approve it and send it to publication, or publication and then approval?
I need to look at that process. I did have one question. If we're looking at prohibiting the use of the county seal, the First Amendment comes into play. So if we're saying unlawful use like fraud, or intent, definitely. But if we're saying just to prohibit any use without permission, the enforceability of that ordinance may be in a question. I know that
It might be.
I know that Alan has been looking has been on that. I talked to him a little bit about it, but I was out sick yesterday. So before we adopt anything or go with that process, I would ask that we put it on the table so I can look into the enforceability, including the Latah County.
I would look into it, but at the same time, I would err on the side of the Supreme Court has put exceptions on what you can use, like the state seal of Idaho and other things.
Sure.
County official documents, anything, county, cities, things that are municipally owned governances, things like that. Anybody has a right to put whatever you can use, but you can't use it for business purposes, and you can't use it for other things because it would intend
Endorsements.
an endorsement or different use of the thing. And so while I would
There's been issues of that.
while I would agree that there is an issue of the freedom of speech that's there is also a right to the freedom or to the protections of the citizens that are in the county. And that's where I'd say that, I would let them fight that out and as a deterrent to not put our seal on stuff and have it show up on Facebook saying, hey, here's the official seal of Bannock County, we'll pay your electrical bills. It needs to go away and stop. Do we need to, what I was saying though is do we need to go ahead and does it have to go to publication?
What's the process?
Sorry.
I would publish it for a public hearing.
So we can make sure they have
Once you
notice.
have a draft ready, because you'll want to post your draft with your public hearing.
So then I would request a friendly amendment and just say that approve it upon legal review and for publication. Because then we don't have to come back and.
I will accept that amendment.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Christie.
Christy Davenport, Management Assistant. I have been working with Scott Crowther and Annie Hughes on updating the Bannock County Independence Celebration Vendor Agreement form, and I just would like your approval prior to sending it to people.
So, in our fee schedule, are these numbers there?
No. So this is a event-specific fee. So we do have fees for use of the facility, but this is our event, and so this is an event-specific fee. But no, they're not in the fee schedule.
So, Mr. Attorney, if we don't have any fees set for this, what's our next process?
Well, no fees were adopted, so we need to go and
Well, if there's no fees,
look through it. What?
We do have fees for like food trucks and stuff like that we have available. But this is, from what I understand, this is the practice that we have used over the last couple of years. But maybe that process needs to be changed to state that for specific events that fees will be established based upon the event.
Yeah.
If there's no fee schedule, then it's up to the commission.
Yeah.
To determine what, if any, fee there will be.
For that event.
Yeah.
For the event itself?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, and that doesn't have to go to a public hearing and?
It's a contract then.
No, yep.
Okay.
Okay. No, I'm good.
Clarify.
Yeah.
And this is the fee that we charged last year?
Yeah, I think this is the same fee that we charged last year. We may have
I think you increased it by about $50.
on the, it may have, I guess, we may have increased it by $50.
Okay.
Sorry.
Are you good with it? That's the question.
I thought it was 200 and 250. Because I didn't change it.
Yes.
Okay, that's all we needed to know.
And so my other question then, this fee also includes their electrical inspection?
Yes. Yeah, because on this one, we will provide the generators and have access for people to plug in, so.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the contract fees as presented.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
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 Had a little fogginess there for a minute.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next in letters and notices, we have a notice of a public hearing for May 10th, at 10:30 a.m. On signatures only, we have a letter of cancellation and a letter application for School District 25 for the memorial out at Century. And then also a petty cash memo for the office next door to have $100, or the office downstairs. Bonds and fines, court records to provide change throughout the day.
Yep. Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
That's not the
Or
consent.
not the consent agenda, excuse me, letters of cancellation, license application, and petty cash memo. Sorry.
We have a motion, all in favor, say aye.
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 I was reading the three things and then I read the consent agenda right underneath it. I was just moving forward, man.
Moving on down the line.
Nothing's gonna take a clerk. Okay. That's clerk too.
All right, next we have consent agenda with salary rate approval forms and minute approval. And actually, I'd like to go into executive session for a minute.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we enter into executive session under Idaho Code 742061 1A under B.
Commissioner Chevy?
Yes.
Commissioner